If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Barrett. Well, the time has come where we're going to plant our tomatoes. Now, unlike past years, well, last year was our first year in the raised beds that we built here. We've got a 4 foot by 16 foot long, 4 foot wide by 16 foot long, 10-inch high bed. And we've got 2 of them in which we're going to plant 30 tomatoes in each bed. Now, you could use a cage method, you could use an easy step plant support system method. We're going to utilize many of those methods, but also we're going to use Florida weave method as a means of supporting our tomatoes. But that's for another day. We're going to get our tomatoes in the ground. Now, each one of these beds, we are going to do 3 rows. Now, that may be excessive, but I've got them marked here. We're going to have 10 per row, and there'll be 30 plants in a bed. We can pack them in tight because we have good plants, we've got good soil, and we're going to have a system in which you can elevate them off the ground. If you don't support your tomato plants in a cage, a trellis, a stake, some method, you're going to lose 50% of those protections of those tomatoes. And we have experimented with that. We had a row of caged and an uncaged row, and the uncaged row fell on the ground, which they are a vine. They sat there, they ripened, they rotted, and we lost 50%. So, you can make a hole, you can shovel, you can use post-hole digger. We're going to use the Pro Plugger, the 5-in-1 Pro Plugger. And I have already marked the holes here just so I can gauge my 10 spots. So all I'm just going to do is push it down, pull it out. Push it in, pull it out. And what is occurring is I'm going 6 inches deep. And this will work for bulbs, transplanting grass, transplanting plugs, anything like that. So the soil is stored in the tube. So all I'm going to do is, because this is very good loose soil, I don't have the plugs that you normally would see in the ground. Like I'll demonstrate over here how this would work. This is 6 inches deep here. There are rings in which you can put in here to go 2 or 4 inches if you're doing something special. So let's just take right here, pull it out, and based on the density of the soil, you might need to access it, help it a little bit, but that would be the plug that comes out. Works really good if you're like removing dandelions or weeds out of the yard too. So I'm just going to drop that plug back in there as if nothing happened. Okay, so that demonstrates how the 5-in-1 Pro Plugger works. So I'm just going to mark all of these, and then we would have 30 holes. But the way we're going to do it is we're going to do this row here and then do the next row and next row, so we don't have to worry about soil falling in on it. Now, we had a whole bunch of plant starts that we started indoors. We did buy a couple of them. We started in party cups, the Root Maker Grow trays, like this one here was in the Root Maker Grow tray. You can see how the roots are not wrapped around there. A lot of roots there. So for example here, we're just going to gently remove that one there. And we sorted them out. There's 60 of them here, so we can just go and drop them in as we go. So we could just plant it like that, which would be great, but however, there's some additional things in which we want to do. We want to add fertilizer. An organic fertilizer is best for the plants, the soil, the environment, and you. And we're going to do the recommended rate, which is what this cup represents. We want to put it in the bottom of the hole. And we don't want to physically put the plant on it. We want to mix it in a little bit. So we want to bury the plant as deep as we possibly can, because all the little hairs there will represent roots development. So we're going to plant it deep there. And if we had a plant that, let's see if I can find one. If we had a plant that had limbs all through here, we would remove all the limbs except for the top canopy. So we're going to plant that deep, and we're going to backfill, and that's how it's done. Now we also want to use a handful of whole grain yellow cornmeal, which has a beneficial bacteria in it called trichoderma that helps fight the early blight in your soil, in everybody's soil. And it doesn't deactivate itself when you water it. It helps prevent that discoloration of the leaves and progressively working up the plant. You also, and the reduction of soil splash up is also a key to that. So we'll also mulch very heavily around all these plants when we get them all in. But the whole grain yellow cornmeal has fights the bad bacteria, which is in the early blight, or which is the early blight that's in your soil. So we got that planted, and we're just going to go around, along and plant all of them just like that. And then when we get done with that, we will come back and we will start mulching our tomatoes so they can grow and have the best success that they possibly can. Okay, so we've got our 30 plants, transplanted tomato plants. As you can see, we've got some of them are kind of on the limp side. Even the store-bought ones are a little limp. That's just part of the shock process. Within a day or two, they'll pop back up. We have hooked up our irrigation system from dripworks.com in this bed to make sure it was functional before we applied the mulch. The mulch will go on top of the irrigation system, which will do two things. It will protect the irrigation system from the sun, as well as it will hold the moisture in and not allow it to evaporate. With this black compost raised bed mix, it's very warm. There's moisture. We had rain last night, but it will evaporate quite quickly just because of the warmth that the summer provides. So that's working. We've got a lot of leaves as a mulch that we are using to place around the tomatoes, and that will benefit everything. Now, if you don't have leaves, and we're going to run out of leaves shortly, you can use chemical seed-free grass clippings, chemical-free seed-free grass clippings. You can use straw. You can use shredded paper. There's a number of mulches you can use. I would avoid using wood chips simply because wood chips take many, many years to break down, and this is an annual bed that you can potentially incorporate the wood chips into the soil. It can rob the soil of nitrogen and the whole deal. So it's up to your discretion. Now, we'll use wood chips on our raspberry and asparagus beds, but not our vegetable beds here. So that's really how easy it is to utilize, how to plant tomatoes, utilize your beds, maximize your beds, and utilize mulch. Now, you can also use pine needles as mulch. It doesn't make the soil acidic. It actually does take a while for it to break down. Doesn't hurt the soil, but is a really good barrier to prevent the soil from drying out. We've used that quite often. So tomato planting, this is how we do it, and we have found great success with it. Now, we'll cage these in weeks to come, but right now our goal is just to get them in the ground and get them established. Thanks for watching. Join me again next time for more organic gardening and plant starting. I'm Joy Baird, and this has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.